The debate between players prioritizing the Indian Premier League versus players, of course, prioritizing international cricket is one that is in many ways never ending and seems to pop up an awful lot whenever it is that the Indian cricket team end up losing a match or potentially a series, or of course, as has become the case in the last few years, an ICC tournament. Now, recently India ended up losing the second ODI of the 3-match series to the West Indies, and what would normally be seen or shrugged off as a routine loss ended up assuming much broader significance when you realize that in that particular match, India had rested not only Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma, but also put out what was essentially a second-string ODI team, which was pretty worrisome when you consider the fact that this is an ODI World Cup here, and therefore you'd want your strongest players present playing in that particular format. However, another thing that has come up a lot is that India do have a lot of players who are injured, and that is also being seen as a problem among many quarters, because despite the fact that there is workload management done, it doesn't seem to stop the number of injuries or the frequency of them. Now, someone who recently weighed in on all of these aspects really is a former India captain Kapil Dev, who of course is someone whose opinion is still held in high regard due to the fact that he was of course the first ever Indian captain to win a major ICC trophy in of course 1983. Now, Kapil Dev has spoken up on a number of things, but the kind of insight that he's had is pretty refreshing and in many ways very different from the similar kind of criticisms that you'll see of players, which may in fact sound like a player from an older generation not quite understanding how it is the modern generation or the modern day of cricket functions. Kapil Dev's opinion actually does speak a lot on, or rather takes into account, that modern cricket is very different from what it used to be like when he and his peers were playing, and therefore he's offered some pretty pointed, interesting notes. Of course, as he said, the IPL versus the club country debate in cricket, and of course the never-ending cycle of cricket that is playing. Let's quickly take a look at what it is he said. The first thing that he's talked about is of course that debate, IPL versus India. He said that IPL is a great thing, but the IPL can spoil you also. One small injury and you will play in the IPL, but one small injury and you won't play for India. You would take a break. Now, obviously that seems pretty pointed when you consider the fact that workload management is very much the name of the game when it comes to the Indian cricket team in the current circumstances, and you will see rotation and rest happen an awful lot. Of course, this is the year of the ODI World Cup, so you probably won't be seeing it happen as much in ODIs, although the recent West Indies series has disproved that theory. But if you look at the T20I team that will be taking on West Indies in the 5-match ODIs, or even potentially the squad that could come for the Island T20s, most of them are going to be second string teams. So you are doing a lot of rotation in that particular format. You're not putting out full strength teams. But it is poignant that he points out also that that the IPL, you have often seen players play through injuries for their IPL franchises, but if they feel a niggle coming and there's a bilateral series coming, then more often than not a lot of players will end up taking rest. That being said, Kapil Dev, whilst also pointing out that players have to take care of themselves, has not exactly spared the BCCI of any criticism either. This is what he said when it comes to the overscheduling of cricket. He said that at this stage, the BCCI has to understand how much cricket they should play. You have plenty of money, but you don't have 3 or 5 year calendars. There's something wrong with the cricket board there. Now, in case you're wondering, let's quickly break down all of those 3 sentences. First off, BCCI has to understand how much cricket they should play. It has been a consistent criticism that there never is any sort of an off season for cricket, and that it is forever ongoing as a sport. It's very cyclical, or it's rather not cyclical at all, because the cycle never seems to end. How much cricket should be played? That is of course also a question that's pertinent when you take into account that the Marylebone Cricket Club, the MCC, have themselves recommended that the number of ODI series or ODI matches be cut down on to ensure that the cricket calendar has some space to breathe. Currently the calendar just doesn't have that at all. And he did say you have plenty of money, but you don't have 3 or 5 year calendars. What he means is that every single cricket board, regardless of how much money they may have or how much they don't have, only has 365 days in a year, and therefore you need to be smart with your scheduling. That's where he said there's something wrong with the way the BCCI functions there, and that's a valid argument, especially when you consider the fact that what used to be the off season, the summer months of March, April, May, Well, that's ended up becoming the window officially so for the Indian Premier League or the IPL, which in itself causes a lot of consternation. But Kapil's point about a lot of cricket being played is a very, very valuable one, and in fact has been raised by many others, saying that the schedule nowadays, the amount of cricket that's played, it's insane, it's far too much, and maybe it needs to be looked at as well. That being said, that hasn't also stopped him from, of course, pointing out some other interesting things. He spoke a little bit on in the kind of injuries that have plagued the team, and spoken about how much time is being invested in a lot of these players and getting them back into fitness. He's taking the example of Jasprit Bumrah. He said, what has happened to Bumrah? He started working with so much belief, but if he's not there in the World Cup knockouts, then we've wasted time. Had Rishabh Pant been there, then our test cricket would have been also better. And both are, of course, pertinent points. But of course, with Bumrah, we've always known that it was something of a long-term process, because of course he ended up getting that stress fracture in September. Since then, has had to undergo surgery. So the road back was always going to be a long one. Of course, the hope is that you'd have him back for the World Cup, which does in fact look likely at this point, because visuals have also emerged of him bowling in that practice match, which we also did a video upon yesterday. You can go check that out. Check out the video also, that too will be there in Sports Today. And for Rishabh Pant, of course, that was, well, something that you just couldn't control at all, because he ended up meeting with a rather bad car accident. But Kapil is right in saying that the test team would also be looking much stronger if you had a Rishabh Pant in there. Of course, injuries has been a problem that, of course, the team has had to deal with a lot in recent times, and you would hope that it's a problem that they don't quite have to contend with. But what are your thoughts on what it is that Kapil Dev has had to say on, say, the IPL versus country debate, or the fact that maybe there needs to be less cricket played, and that the BCCI needs to set its priorities when it comes to ensuring that the calendar doesn't get chock-a-block as it is right now? You can let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to download the SportsTak app, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead and check out some other videos that we've uploaded. But for now, from my side, it's goodbye.